Happy day, students. Welcome to another interesting session of Class 8 English Prose. The name of the lesson is Gogol's First Day. It is written by Miss Jampa Lahiri, who is the author of this lesson. She was born on 11th July 1967 and she was born in London. She was raised in Rhode Island, Kingston, and was a daughter of Bengali Indian immigrants from the state of West Bengal. Her first novel was The Namesake. Lahiri is currently a professor of creative writing at Princeton University. You can look at the different work of the author that I have given here. So when we read the title, we can think about so many questions. First day. So first day, what does first day mean to you? How was your first day at school? What were the different challenges you had to face and how did you handle them? What did you learn from your experience on the first day and the experiences of other students? Isn't it? These are the questions which come to our mind. So the main characters in this lesson are Gogol, Ashok Ganguly, Ashima Ganguly, Mrs. McNabb and Mrs. Lapidus. So let us look at the introduction here. Gogol Ganguly is a young Bengali boy who lives in America. He is about to start going to school for the first time. His parents, Ashok and Ashima, tell him that he will be called as Nikhil at school and not Gogol. He has never been called as Nikhil before. Before joining the school, he was never been called as Nikhil. He cannot understand why his parents have made this decision. So that's the introduction of the lesson. So what is the lesson about? The name Gogol was an important one to Ashok, who adored, that is, who admired, who loved Nikolai Gogol's work. So he used to read, the author's work and collection. So that's why he loved the name Gogol and he had kept that as his son's name. Before Gogol begins kindergarten, Ashok and Ashima, his parents, decide on a good name for him, which is Nikhil. This is the name they want him to be called at school, even though Gogol doesn't understand why his name is changed. So for a boy at the kindergarten who has been used to be called as Gogol, he is really wondering why are his parents so adamant that he should be called as Nikhil at school. At school, Gogol refuses to answer to Nikhil. So when he is questioned by the principal by calling his name Nikhil, like when you go to the school for on the first day or when you meet the management, the principal or your teacher on the first day, obviously they call you with your name and they ask you some questions, right? Similarly here also the principal was trying to ask questions to Gogol by calling him Nikhil, but he refused to answer because he was not used to it. His father tries to convince him of his new name by calling him Gogol. So his father wants to actually tell him, come on, respond. The principal is asking you something. So in order to do that, he calls him by the name Gogol. The principal overhears his father calling him Gogol and asks him, what is it? So when the principal, listens to the word Gogol, she's like, they have written Nikhil here and he's calling some other name. So he questions his father, what is it about? So then Ashok tells the principal that Gogol is his nickname and that Nikhil would be his name that he should be called at school. So after his father leaves, after the discussion with the principal when his father leaves, the principal asks Gogol his preference for the name, wherein he says he prefers to be called as Gogol. So after the father leaves, the principal has a casual discussion with the child, with the student, with Gogol. And the principal asks him, what name would you prefer? So he obviously says he should be called as Gogol. So Mrs. Lapidus realizes that Gogol's legal name is also Gogol from his birth and that this is the name he prefers, insists that he should be called as Gogol in school, which also she conveys through a letter on the first day. So when she understands that the child prefers to be called as Gogol, she writes the same in the letter to his parents saying that as the child prefers to be called as Gogol, we will be registering his name as Gogol and he will be addressed as Gogol in school. He is then introduced to his teacher and peers who also have nicknames. So usually in the United States of America, most of the schools, you have teachers and your own friends who have nicknames. Like Anderson can be called as Andy, Susan can be called as Sus, and something can be called as Anne. So you have such nicknames. So when he was introduced to his teacher and peers, all of them had nicknames. So Gogol was very happy about it. As his education begins, he gets his creations home, which his mother proudly hangs on the refrigerator door. So as his education starts, as he going, as he gets going to school, every day he gets some or the other creations. Like when you started kindergarten, there are so many things that you learn for the first time. There are so many things that you create or you make for the first time. Craft, art, numbers, so many things that you learn, isn't it? If you would have a tour of your own school, you can see in the kindergarten sections, it's all colorful. It's all decorated with a lot of things, which also conveys whatever syllabus they have, but it's all decorative. So he gets all that home, and his mother proudly hangs it on the refrigerator door. You can ask your own parents, when you would have been a child or in kindergarten, and whatever you would do in the school, whenever you used to get that at home, even today, I would say many parents, whatever trophies you win or whatever certificates you win or whatever thing you get home saying that I prepared this in the school, parents would proudly hang it in the living room, because for them it's a matter of pride. So his mother also does the same thing. So that was the summary of the lesson. So here we understand that the lesson is about Gogol's first day at school, that his parents are adamant that he should be called as Nikhil, but as he prefers the name Gogol, the school authorities also give importance to his preference, and he is called as Gogol when he joins the school. Of course, this is an extract from the novel The Namesake. This is just an extract. So if you want to know what happened further or how did the story go, in the, like, it's not, this is just an extract, okay? This is just a part of the novel. So did Gogol really carry his name as Gogol throughout his life, or did he accept the name as Nikhil? So for you to understand that, you have to read the novel The Namesake. What are the learning outcomes that we understand after reading the lesson? We understand that the problems that arise from cultural differences. What do you mean by cultural differences? Whether it's our own country or any other country, there are people who belong to different cultures, isn't it? So when you mingle with them, you have to learn and adapt to the new culture. Otherwise, you will be stuck in cultural differences. So we can understand when it happens, how the story takes place in America and what are the cultural differences. Like we may have nicknames at home, but we are called with a name which is registered, and with that name we are addressed in school or offices. But in US, if you see, or especially in US, you will have all these nicknames which are registered in the school also. So this is just one of the examples. There are many cultural differences which you will come across when you visit a different country. To examine the adult child relationship in the story, so on one side, where the parents are very adamant that he should be called as Nikhil, on the other hand, the principal gives preference to the child's interest and then accepts that he will be called as Gogol. So we can understand the adult child relationship. Relate to an episode happening in school. So you can very well relate this to your own experience, which would have happened when you were in kindergarten. To understand the theme of the story, which is accept people as they are, irrespective of their caste, culture, and country identities. So the author is trying to convey that you should accept people as they are. Okay, whatever may be their background, their class, their culture, or any country that they belong to, whatever would be their identity, but we should accept people. Only then there will be peace and harmony. Okay, so this is what we learn after reading the lesson. Thank you, students. I hope you understood whatever I have explained here. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.